Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Someone says, what's the future? Vaughn Coleman.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to yet another Vaughn Coleman Presents. I'm going all out on networking this week, building up, getting whatever last few signups I can before we go and do my website. Of course, my website being RebelOasisStudios.com, which I'll go ahead and add here. I should have done this beforehand, and then I forgot. RebelOasisStudios.com is a currently non-existent website that is getting ready to drop. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. But for now, take a look at the MailChimp for my upcoming comic book, Phenomenova Issue 1, Lightning Strikes. The copies have been sent out, and it's exciting because people are actually getting the books in their hand, which means if you join the mailing list, you will be able to get notified, on every little development when it goes live digitally, when the physical version is dropped on my website. I'm really excited, a little nervous, but excited about getting some feedback on the book itself. It's 68 pages, 65 pages of story, set 20 years after World War III, follows the idealistic son of a war hero who strikes out to become a superhero inspired by his father's legacy. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely make sure to sign up for Phenomenova. And enough about me. All right, let's talk about our guest of honor, the first of two Aarons in a row this week. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Sparrow. How's it going?
Hey, so you're having Jason Aaron on after me? Is that what's happening?
No, I'm having Aaron Lopresti on after you.
Oh, that's a much better one. I like that one.
I don't think I've read anything Jason Aaron has ever written.
No, nothing ever. He used to be a really good brand. Like when he first started out, there was like some things that he did that I really, really loved. But I've continued to love everything that Aaron Lopresti does. So that's a good get.
Yeah, I have to read Wraith of God. It's on my list. But I haven't gotten to it yet. And I know everyone says it's like the best thing ever. Yeah, tell me a Survivor, by the way, is what my shirt says, Doug 219. He was asking. Anyway, sorry, continue.
No, I was going to say Wraith of God is definitely one of the best crowdfunded books on the market. Obviously, Aaron's had a really long career. He's really honed his craft, and the stuff that he's got going in that book is absolutely fantastic. I think between him and Fiendish, they're my two favorite crowdfunded books.
Fiendish is right now. Yeah, Rainey's all right. No, I'm kidding. Rainey's a friend of mine. It's good. She was at New York too. Aaron and I met at New York, and that I'm hoping to table there next year. I think I'm spreading myself too thin, but I'm trying to really get it. I figured I'm going to be there anyway. Might as well have something to sell. But Fiendish is probably my favorite right now, although I really like what Dave Brink is doing with Perfect 10. That book is
you know what? I have not read that book yet.
High recommend.
I've checked out the art and it looks really, really good. So
high recommend.
I'm psyched about that. I think that actually just getting into crowdfunding, it looks like HH from Sigma Comics has just started a crowdfunder with Mike Barron. They're doing some more of Here Comes Calico, which is HH's book, and he gave me a copy of like the trade at New York, and it's a fantastic read. It's a little more on the graphic side, with the violence and whatnot. So if you're like sensitive to that, it might not be for you. But if you're an animal lover and you hate the idea of animals being abused and you want to read about a vigilante that takes out animal abusers, it's like the Punisher for cats and dogs.
That's awesome. I gotta ask you a question about, actually a few stuff. I have a bunch, but I guess I want to get to know your background before we get into things. So first of all, one thing, going ahead and looking at your IMDb, I mean, you wrote, even though it was only one episode, you wrote for Young Justice, right?
Yeah. So what happens when you write an episode is, hang on, there's a siren going.
The police.
Yeah.
I'm asking too many questions.
And they're like, hey, no, you can't talk about this. No, fortunately, I don't live in the UK, so have not been arrested for my speech yet. So the way that it works is you come in on an arc, and you sit. You do like a writer's room with usually there's 4 episodes to an arc on Young Justice, so with 4 writers plus the showrunners, and you go through everything that's going to happen in that arc, and you guys kind of all work out your individual episodes, and you recommend little like things to each other, for your episode, it'd be cool if you did this, and it would set up this, and it would set up that, and so that's what you do, and then you break up into your individual episodes, and you write them, and then they go to Greg and Brandon, and Greg Weissman and Brandon Vietti, and they do a final polish over it, and then it goes to the animation. So yeah, it was a really great experience. So even though you're writing one episode, it feels like you're writing multiple because you're kind of involved in that writing room experience.
That's interesting. What season was this that you worked on?
This was season 4, and
Okay.
I got the finale of the penultimate arc. So I got to do it was set on Apocalypse. I got to do I get to deal with the New Gods, the Green Lantern Corps, Jay Garrick Flash, Rocket from Milestone. So a bunch of characters that I really loved. I got to play around with.
That's
so
awesome. I never watched.
fantastic.
I've only saw the first episode of season 4. I hadn't seen the rest, so I'll have to check it out. But Young Justice was a huge. I don't reference it enough, but it was a huge influence on me grading my book. So I guess I don't reference it enough because I don't know, my audience typically, I don't know why I don't reference it enough, but really that was a big one for me. But so first I want to ask, like, what got you into writing?
Well, when I was a kid, I loved comic books. What happened was, so I was, I'd had a few comic books when I was a kid, like that my grandmother would give me. Occasionally I had like an early issue of Star Wars, or an early issue of, like a couple of early issues of G.I. Joe. But I didn't really get into it until one summer I went up to my great grandmother's house, and her neighbor was like, "Oh, does your grandson like to read?" And she was like, "Yeah, he likes to read." But I was already reading books, at a very young age. And she said, "Well, I've got all these Archie digests," because she really liked them. And so she gave me a big box of like Archie digests and like Sugar and Spike collections. And since I was up at my great grandmother's and I didn't have access to all of my stuff, all of my toys and all the books that I had, I didn't have a lot to do. So I tore through those, and I really developed a love of comic books. And then from there, that was right when the G.I. Joe craze hit. Like I had a couple of G.I. Joe figures that I bought at Kmart. And then I saw the commercials for the comic books. And I was like, oh, this is like those toys that I have. So I went to 7-Eleven and I found, I think it was G.I. Joe 7. And so I picked that up. And then I didn't see another issue until like 10 came out. Or that 7 was like old because the next one I saw was 10 and it was shortly thereafter. But I started picking them up. And I got addicted. And then from there, you're reading G.I. Joe, you start picking up Transformers because now that's out and that's got a cartoon and you're playing with those toys. But I kept seeing the ads for like X-Men and things like that in the back of the book. And I was like, who are these characters? So I started spending money on those. From there, I got into the whole larger Marvel universe. I went from, most people come in on Spider-Man. I came in on X-Men and then jumped to Spider-Man. And then I started picking up Batman. And from Batman, I got introduced to the larger DC universe. So, it didn't... it used to be a lot different. You didn't have to jump in on, what the new number 1 was, and they didn't restart constantly. You'd jump in on like issue 300 of something or 333 or, whatever, 257, whatever that first one was that threw you, on the comics rack. And then you would just continue buying it. You'd get hooked into it. And then my uncle told me, well, there's a comic book store, right next to the aquarium place where we buy fish. And I was like, what? And it was a place that was just called Coins. Because they sold coins, but they had some comics in the back, and they actually did a pretty good pull service, even though it was mostly about collectible coins. And so I started a pull list, and I was hooked ever since. So I wanted to tell stories, and I knew that I wanted to work in comics. And I was drawing at the time, and I was drawing with my friends. And what my grandmother, she took me to see this Marvel artist. I don't remember who it was, but she was like, "This guy works for Marvel, and he's doing like a signing." And so she took me to meet him, and he heavily discouraged me. I showed him my stuff, and I was drawing like little like Caped Avenger comics with Garfield and stuff. But like, very, very took themselves very seriously with very serious villains. And he was just like, you don't want to be in comics, kid, be a dentist or, like something else. There's no money in it.
Who said this?
And just some Marvel artist that I met.
I was wondering if
like, he was not smoking, but in my mind he was. Like, every time
you want to be back, kid.
You don't want to do this, kid. Comics will break your heart. That thing.
Yeah.
And so I
Was his
stopped
name
drawing for a
Jack
long
Kirby
time.
by chance?
That would be amazing. No,
Would
actually,
it? Would that be the interaction you'd want with your hero? That would be depressing if it was like someone. Was it someone you knew, an artist you were a fan of, or was it?
No, it was just somebody who worked for. Like I said, I don't even remember who it was because I think part of me just like kind of blocked it out. But I didn't draw for years and years, and then I got into high school, and I had a couple of friends that were drawing, and so my friend Mike Howard started sharing his DC books with me, and my friend Mike Watson started sharing, like, and it was like, okay, so we really got into like the comic discussions. We were drawing our own books and we were drawing our own handbook entries and things like that for our characters. And then Mike Howard ended up going to another school, and my friend Mike Watson, unfortunately, was killed by a driver while on his paper route.
Jesus.
So I kind of stopped I stopped drawing altogether for years, and but I still had the itch to tell stories. And eventually I came around to the idea that, like, well, I'm not a good enough artist. I didn't practice it enough to stay in that game, but I can write. I could write stories, and so I started doing that. And that's a very long explanation. I apologize for for how winding that road was, but
No, that's okay.
How.
It's okay. That's good. It's good.
I could have just said I wanted to tell stories.
No, it's I like it. So you were like always into doing that. So you've done work for Disney, you've done work for all kinds of stuff. So what broke you into comics? Like,
well, I was it's funny because everybody always says, well, how do you break in? How do you break in? And there's no one way, and you have to constantly break in. Because anybody that you meet who can give you work will eventually move on or get fired, and then you got to start. It's like you got to start all over.
Right.
Unless you become one of those established people, or right now, unless you have a fashionable identity where they just hand you work, where they call you up and they go, hey, you want to write this story that the assistant editor came up with, which I never want to be in a position to do. So I was working for Comic-Con. I started working in a comic shop, and then a guy came in, this guy, Greg, and he was like, have you ever been to San Diego Comic-Con? And I said, no. And he gave me passes, and I went, and then he introduced me to a bunch of people that he knew that were on the staff, and they liked me. So they signed me up to be, a staff member. So I started working at San Diego Comic-Con, and through that, I met a lot of people. And it came up that, hey, did you know that Tokyo Pop in LA is hiring? They're hiring for copy editors. So I put in an application, and I met with Jill Freshney, their managing editor, and she liked me. And so they hired me to be a copy editor. And from there, I started like giving notes on scripts that would come in, because what Tokyo Pop did was they would bring over manga, and then you would have a translator go through it and give you a script, translated script. And the scripts were really dry a lot of the times. And they were also like very steeped in like, kind of like Japanese colloquialisms and culture and things like that didn't translate well, at least in the script that they were giving you. So I would give notes on how to, better, like, let's structure the sentence this way, or let's, change the dialogue this way so that it better conveys what the writer is trying to say, but it does it in a language that, Americans can understand. And they liked that. And then eventually they just started giving me translations to write. And I would try to stick really close to the source material, except for when the licensor, there's a couple of occasions where the licensor came in and they were like, no, I remember it was Devil May Cry 3 in particular. The licensee, the licensor, because we were the licensee. The licensor said, can you make this more like the game? We want Dante to be more sarcastic. We want him to be more biting in his dialogue than.
Wait, they wanted it to be like the source material?
Well, like the video game source material, because I guess the manga, at least in the script that I got, because I don't read Japanese, so I couldn't tell you the original script. But I guess the woman that wrote it, they felt that it wasn't enough like the game, and they wanted it to be more like the game to be more accessible, or at least more successful for an American audience. So I wrote the script, and then they kept coming back and going, can you amp it up? Can you pump it up? Can you pump it up? And so eventually it just became this really like sarcastic kind of like, Dante is just a complete smart ass to everybody. And it got really good reviews when it came out. I've only ever had one person come and complain at me on Twitter about it.
That's good.
Years and years after the fact. But like when it came out, it got really good.
And what was the complaint?
Oh, just that I violated the original intent of the author, and I didn't do a good job, and blah blah blah. It was someone who I think was severely autistic. And I just explained to them. I said, listen, normally I tried to stick very close to the source material on things, but if the people that were paying me asked me to, do it a different way, I did it a different way, and that's what happened here.
Gotcha. And this was an adaptation of a manga?
Yeah, this was the Devil May Cry adaptation.
That's so the manga was further from the Devil May Cry games?
Yeah, I mean the translation was, at least. It was a really dry and kind of boring.
That's strange.
And I don't know if the original's that way, because like I said, I don't read Japanese, so I didn't read the original, but at least the translation that we were given was not great.
Gotcha. Now we have, real quick, I want to say hi to the chat, and they want to say hi to you. Greetings from the homeless shelter. Hello, Aaron. Great choice for an artist on your book, Renzo the Great. Yeah, Renzo is very good. A lot of people.
I went through several choices, and then I was talking to Renzo, and I hired Renzo to do some Death Rage for me, because I was working for Merck at the time, which basically doesn't exist anymore. It's turned into something. It's turned into like a porn publisher, but he did such great work for me on Death Rage that I said to him, do you want to maybe do this other book with me? And I sent him the concepts and everything, and he started doing character designs and redrawing the characters and sending me stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy. This is who's going to get us over the finish line. This is fantastic. And Renzo is great to work with. I want to work with him forever.
It's great. And then John Douglas is dropping some love for Vaughn and Aaron, two of my favorite dudes in the comic space. Thank you, John.
How's it going, John? I love John's picture. It looks like he's just drinking right out of the coffee.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Profile pictures with, I don't know. I feel like they're often great for conveying just whatever you want. So, I don't know. I was like taking time with it, and I haven't been able to top my last one with the finger gun, so I'm just gonna keep it until I come up with something superior. So that's, you worked on a translation. So what else did you do? By the way, glad to see you two doing a live. By the way, if anyone here is new or whatever, if you haven't liked it yet, make sure to like the stream. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. The copy isn't perpetuity. Praise the bean juice. Yeah, I might need another one. I have had one of those days where I'm just ADHD and I'm trying to make things make sense. I don't know if you ever get that as a writer. Publisher. I was gonna say you do, of course.
Yeah, constantly. I can't focus on any one thing. That's why my desk. I mean, if you look at my desk here, like I've got a million things that I'm working on at any given moment, like little things that I'm painting or figures that I'm working on. Like I just finished this today. Finished an open mouth head sculpt for the Cottonmouth Marvel Legend, because for some reason the Marvel decided to do him smiling. And it's like, yeah, no, his whole thing is that his mouth stretches open. He'll bite your head off. So I do stuff like that. I've got action figures everywhere. I have to fidget constantly. I got in trouble with Wes today on the stream because we were doing the video portion and not the Patreon portion. And I started painting. And he goes, it looks like you're not engaged. And I was like, I can listen and paint. And he goes, this is the video portion. You're going to look like you're ignoring me. And I was like, oh, sorry. I didn't realize we were doing the video.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Anyway, so in the nature of ADHD, let's getting back to tasks. So you were working on, it looks like, all kinds of stuff. I mean, you did some work at Disney. You did some work. I mean, just your resume, because I was trying to make sense of it because it's all over, but it seems like you just are constantly reinventing yourself. Or how would you describe it? The path.
I'm constantly losing jobs.
Oh, okay. That'll do.
No, it's, as you know, the industry is very volatile. So I was very, very popular at Tokyo Pop, and but they had their owner was. This is the problem with the publishing industry.
Oh, the problem?
Well, this is one of the main problems. There are many, but a lot of them just stem from, at least in the smaller publishers. You will get somebody who stumbles into an idea. That idea blows up and becomes wildly successful. Yes. And then they convince themselves that every idea they have will work that way and that they are geniuses. And so they will take the money from the thing that's successful and pour it into other things that they want to do and bankrupt the company. You've seen it with IDW, them pursuing, Winona Earp and trying desperately to get into TV and movies. They've basically like ruined the company. It happened at Tokyo Pop. They wanted to get into movies. They wanted to get into other things. They wanted to do American manga because it became an idea of, why are we paying all these licensing fees on, Japanese books so we could just make our own stuff? I was like, well, there's a reason that the Japanese stuff sells. So, I've seen that happen multiple times. So at Tokyo Pop, oh, wow, I can't post in the chat. That's weird.
Oh, you can't?
No, Millie, I was trying to respond to you. You said I love customizing Marvel Legends, and I was going to say, check out the custom sculpts that we make. If you're on Instagram, go check out Big Head Studios Customs.
Let me make sure I'm following you on there. Never enough. It's weird. I'm always like trying to drag myself away from social media, and then I always go back to it. And usually, often when I do, I'm glad I did, or I hate myself, or both, because it's like, it really is networking and advertising at this point. It's become Vaughn is banned Aaron. Absolutely not. I'd never do that.
It's like he's just going to be spamming the chat.
That's my thing. Yeah, I censor my guests heavily. I make them kneel before me. Actually,
fair. It's your platform. You can do what you want.
No. It's So yeah, that's all right. So that's anyway. Back to your point on the publishing industry is that they take their ideas that are successful and they kind of fund their next one.
Yeah. So there was just wave after wave of layoffs going on at Tokyo Pop, and eventually I got caught in one of those. Now, fortunately, I actually ended up making more money when I got laid off from Tokyo Pop because the editors liked me, and so they were like, "We're going to give you more translations to do. We're going to give you more scripts to work on." So I had about a good 2 years where I was just at home making really good money, working like 8 hours, 16 hours a week, just doing the translations. But, the money was so good that you could do 2 in a week and, you were living large. And then I started to get bored with being at home all the time. And I started to miss like human interaction. And I ended up going and working for a toy company for a while. And then once that toy company folded because the owner decided to cheat on his wife with one of the employees, I ended up over at Boom Studios, and I was at Boom Studios for a year before I ended up getting fired. And then I went to Ape Entertainment, and then Ape Entertainment was great for a while until they ran into financial problems and they had to close down. And then from there to Joe Books, and just on and on and on. Just continually jumping from company to company until they fold. I always try to, when I come in, I always want to do the best work that I can, no matter what the property is, no matter what it is that I'm working on. I want to put out the best version of it. And I have to say that really the only company that understood that was Ape Entertainment. I worked over there for Brent Irwin, who was from Wizard Magazine, and David Hedgecock, who later went to IDW and is now doing his own stuff under Fun Time Go. If you guys haven't checked out Miss Mina and the Midnight Guardians or Fun Time or your Fun Roller, I always massacre this, but it's like Fun Time Roller Derby Go, or it's Roller Derby Girls Fighting Kaiju. He's doing some great crowdfunded books. But Brent and David are the only publishers I've ever worked directly for that didn't screw me in some way. They always took great care of me.
That's good. That's always nice. Not getting screwed. All right.
Just both really stand-up guys.
Well, that's good. And so now what made you, is this your first crowdfunded book or?
This is my first crowdfunded book. Not the first one that I've worked on, but the first one that I own.
That's good. So did you learn a lot of lessons then from all those different companies when making your own?
Oh, so many lessons.
Or did it change the way you looked at, your experiences in the past?
Well, I knew that I was tired of working on other people's stuff. Especially, not so much independent people, because I still work with a lot of independent creators and I enjoy that. But I was tired of working for companies where you had somebody in corporate who would look at your work and then say, no, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. You can't make this joke, change this, because they had a big arbitrary rule book of things that you were allowed to do and you weren't allowed to do. And they didn't understand the property. One of the best notes I ever got was I was working on Toy Story with Nate Watson, who's done some of the covers for Kneel Before Doomface, and with Jesse Blaze Snyder, who is one of my best friends in the world.
Oh, I didn't know that you were close to Jesse.
Do you know Jesse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had him on my show. A while ago. He's great. I love Jesse. Oh
yeah, no, Jesse's great. And so we were doing Toy Story, and we got this note back that's from one of the people. I think it was Italy. one of the Italians who looks over the book, and they were giving us a bunch of little nitpicks. But one of the main ones was, you need to take this dialogue away from Lenny, the little pair of binoculars. They were like, because Lenny doesn't talk. And I wrote back and I said, not only does Lenny talk, and here's the points in the film where he talks, but he's voiced by director Joe Ranft, who's one of the most important people at Pixar. And
so they were correcting you.
The note came back from Kelly Bonbright at Pixar herself. And basically, like, I got to see her notes to the Italians, which I don't know if I was supposed to see them, but when it came back, they were in there. And it just said, stop telling Aaron who talks, who doesn't. Stop giving him notes on the characters. He understands them better than you do.
That's nice.
And so I've always loved Kelly because of that. And I saw recently that there is actually a car, from Mattel's Cars line, and I guess it was in one of the movies, but its name is Kelly Beambright. So they named a car after her. That's how important she became at Pixar.
That's awesome. All right. Well, yeah. So you've gone all these different directions, and now here you are. Now I want to talk about. Sorry, and another idea came to me, my ADHD, when you were telling your story based on that. And so I wanted to just get into your campaign because I always like to get to know my guests first. And it's almost upsetting because as much as I want to support you, you were at a perfect 300 backers. And
yeah, but let's break.
But we don't need. Yeah, exactly. So we will. Yeah, exactly. Let's get past 13,000. I don't know what my thing will be if people make money on my streams, but we'll come up with some sort of name for it. Anyway, I'm gonna play this trailer and then we'll talk about the book.
All right.
Betrayed, defeated, banished to the timeless void for 40 years. But at long last, I have returned. And I will burn my name in the firmament, so that when my enemies, when the whole world falls to its knees, to cry out whatever God will hear their pleas, they will see my name etched across the heavens, and know that I, Doomface, have been the architect of their subjugation. All shall kneel before Doomface.
Heroes think they win, but they never will. A feeling so hard that he can't be survived. Now behold, that time has arrived. And just imagine how it's gonna feel as you beg for mercy under my heel. Kneel before Two-Face. Then kneel before Two-Face. You are gonna kneel again and again. Kneel before Two-Face.
I love this theme. Thank you, Doug.
I'm gonna share Doug's sentiments on this. That was a kick-ass trailer, man. That was awesome. So first of all, you got your own song.
Yeah. So when I was talking about the campaign backstage with the Comics Aficionados, which if you guys don't know, every Saturday I do Comics Aficionados with Wes over on Thinking Critical. But we were talking backstage, and Jim actually makes music and does different things. Jim from Weird Science, and he's got a great channel too, by the way. Jim's really funny. And I was just joking with him. I said, like, "Oh, you should do a Kneel Before Doomface theme." And the next thing I know he was sending me like samples of, we could do this, we could do that. And so, he sent me like a scratch track, and I wrote some, we took some stuff from the comic book, some dialogue, and put it in there. And and we got a theme. And he actually sent me a couple of different versions. So there's like a Saturday or like a Friday night sitcom version of the Kneel Before Doomface song that I want to use at some point, for some campaign. I've just got to think of a story where it'll fit and be kind of funny. But yeah, he knocked it out of the park. And then the trailer was put together by Cody Williams. And if any of you guys need trailers, let me know, and I will send you his info, because he's really, really good. He knocked that out under such a tight deadline, to get it ready for the campaign. He really killed it. So just the animation and everything that's in there is fantastic.
That is one hell of a trailer, man. Great stuff. So now let's talk about the book. Speaking of, hell of a Roquefort cover. Roquefort, I was talking about him recently. He was one of the earliest examples I remember of comics controversies. I remember I was just getting into comics around that time, and it was like that one issue with Starfire, Red Hood and the Outlaws. I remember that art came out, and for some reason, suddenly this character that looked like that for 40 years, suddenly, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that whole controversy?
Was it Starfire or was it Donna Troy?
No, it was Starfire. Was just like at the beach. And then there were people who had never read the comics who just watched the Teen Titans show, which, to be fair, I was one of these people at the time. They were like, oh my God, look at what they did to Starfire. But I remember doing my 2 seconds of research and going, oh wait, no, she's always looked like this. The show.
She's always been she's always been kind of a sex pot. So it was a time in comics when you were getting the rise of very, damaged, very damaged commentators coming over from Comics Alliance, people with political agendas, people who felt bad about themselves, and then therefore didn't like any character being sexualized or being having sex appeal. It was that particular time. It was what kind of started the whole downfall of the industry, and kind of still continues to this day. It's done untold damage to the mainstream. So I've always loved Kenneth's stuff. I first discovered him on Madame Mirage with Paul Dini, and I've always thought his stuff was incredible. So just the fact that I was able to get a cover from him is like a dream come true. Two things that happened this year. I got a cover from Kenneth, and then Brett Booth did a cover on a Street Fighter book that I did with Udon. So two of my favorite artists of all time, like on wrapped around stuff that I wrote. Just what a dream come true.
So that's nuts. So tell everyone real quick what this book is about, or you don't have to be real quick. But just tell them what it's about.
You've already discovered I can't be real quick about anything.
Good. First, I want to say this. It makes my job so much easier. If people just give these 2-second answers, it's like I have to quintuple my work, because I'm like, as a creator, if someone just goes, I just go, and someone just talks. Oh my God, does it make my job easier? So I appreciate it.
This is one of the reasons that I love hanging out with Jesse Snyder, is because he is just as verbose, if not more so, than me. Man. I'll hang out with him, and sometimes, it's like you don't feel like being on. Yeah. And so Jesse will start, and you can just kind of go, oh, thank God.
Yeah, just you blink and 2 hours pass by.
Yeah, you can just sit there and
yeah.
You can let him take over for a while. I love that. So Kneel Before Doomface, if you guys like The Tick, if you guys like The Venture Brothers, Sam and Max by Steve Purcell, that's very much like kind of my comedy sensibility. And so I wanted to write something that had humor in it, because I don't think that there's enough, humor books. And if you guys know me at all, you know that I wrote a pretty popular run on Darkwing Duck. And so I like kind of the superhero spoof genre. I like having some fun with it, but I also like telling stories that are meaningful and have some stakes. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to do something that combined both the absurdist humor of those kinds of properties, but with actual superhero battles and stakes and pathos and character relationships. And, I really wanted to explore all of that. So it's a very delicate balancing act that I'm trying to do, but I think that we're nailing it. So Doomface is the story of a villain from the 1980s, a very 1980s style villain in the veins of Hordak or Skeletor or Primeval from Ghostbusters or, Cobra Commander, Miles Mayhem, any of those, old school villains. And
I could tell that right away.
Yeah, he was banished in the 1980s. There's actually a joke in the book where the barista says to him, like, take it easy, Skeletor. And he says to Lexi, why does everyone keep calling me that? So he was banished in the 1980s. And now in the year 2024, there is a Ghost Adventures type reality show. And reality, when you talk about Ghost Adventures. And the douchebag hosts end up knocking over this totem that they pulled out of storage for the show. They're doing a 15th anniversary of the death of Alistair Thorne, the supreme sorcerer who helped banish Doomface in the 80s. And they accidentally knock over this totem. And that totem is what holds Doomface in the Timeless Void. So when it shatters, Doomface is released back into the world in 2024. Obviously, he's been gone for a while. The world has changed dramatically in 40 years. And he's really out of touch with what's going on. So immediately he kills the host of the Ghost Adventures type show because the guy whips his shirt off and challenges him to a fight, Zach Baggins style. And so Lexi, the producer of the show, who's pictured here on the cover with him, she is left without a job. And in order to save her crew, she offers to be his major domo and to have her crew film his exploits. And that's appealing to him. And she's also going to help educate him on all of the things that have changed in the time that he's been gone. So there's a lot of comedy between her. She's a fiery Latina. So she's the only person that can talk back to him and not get killed for it. So their relationship is a lot of fun. And so we have a lot of time playing with the man out of time kind of aspect of Doomface, him rediscovering the world and discovering like how things have changed and how ridiculous things have gotten just on a social level. And then the B story is, if you scroll down a little bit to the Welcome to San Francisco cover, the B story is actually about two superheroes from a small town, Notorious K.I.D. and Iggy the Inflatable Iguana, and they are best friends. There you go. You just right there. That's one that's got everybody on it. They come to the big city of San Francisco, which is 49% criminal and trying desperately not to tip over the edge. And they want to establish themselves as heroes, but they also want to do some good. They want to be able to help the populace who is, under siege constantly by crime and by supervillains. And what they find out is that, the conceit for them is, what if breaking into the superhero business was like breaking into the modern day comic book industry?
Oh,
with
okay.
all the gatekeepers and all the personalities and all the pricks that you have to deal with. So the first major problem they run into is not supervillains, but being vetted by the Social Justice League, who is there to determine whether or not, they are worthy to be in the industry.
Gotcha.
So there's a little touch of, if you guys like, not necessarily the show, but the concept behind The Boys, there's a little bit of that in their story.
Does it go as far into blatant on the nose, whatever they're doing with the latest season?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't like The Boys TV show.
Neither do I.
Yeah, so the closest thing that I can kind of compare this to, humor-wise, without being crass, is South Park. So we don't go as far, or we don't get as crass as South Park, but the humor of like where everybody's fair game, and every idea and every kind of situation is fair game for comedy. That's basically what we're going for.
It's good stuff. You have so many covers to work with here. And yeah, I'm really Cedric. I follow on socials. He's great. Yeah. Oh wait, this is after Cedric. Oh,
yes. Yeah. Cedric did a cover for the Street Fighter book that I worked on. And I really, it was, of Yuri Han, and she's doing the police lineup thing. And I was like, man, I would love to do that with Lexi. So that inspired this piece by Renzo.
Gotcha. There's this one. Is this an homage to something?
No, this is just Nate Watson doing his thing. We wanted something with Colonel Silverstreak being a badass.
That's such a cool perspective.
Yeah, he's called the American Murder Machine. That's like his nickname. He is a super soldier. He's one of the two that were able to banish Doomface back in the 80s. So he is another man at a time. They freeze him every time they're done with him, and they just bring him out when there's a new threat. And so he's there's a lot of comedy involved with him too.
Absolutely. There's some great, a lot of great stuff. All these.
This one right here. Okay, that one, the horror cover.
Or which horror?
Up one.
Oh, yeah.
The Lionel Castellani cover. this was the actual first piece of artwork produced for the book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Lionel.
Well, I assume after like character designs.
Yeah, character designs came through, and I gave them to Lionel, and Lionel just got to. I said, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Just what do you feel like doing?" And because I've learned to trust him. We did a pitch for Justice League Unlimited that never got off the ground at DC, and so I've always wanted to work with him, on something. And he's so busy because he's so talented. But he was like, "Let me do a cover." And this is what he turned in. He said, "I want to do like a kind of like an old Vault of Horror or creepy magazine kind of style cover with the zombies." And I was like, "Go for it!" And so he did this, and you'll notice that we did like some special, cover design and special logos to fit the tone of it. It's one of my favorites, and I cannot wait. Like I'm so excited by like every single cover that we have. And a lot of them were just like pieces of promo art that Renzo did, or that things that we'd talk about. But like they were all so good. I was like, I want to have a variety of covers done, and so there's a little bit of a different flavor for everybody. And obviously, we've got different buy-in tiers. So if you buy the A cover, it's only $15. So, and if we hit some goals that are coming up, the page count will get another 24 pages. So for $15, you will get this almost 64-page book if you're buying the A cover. But we wanted to have different tiers, so people of different financial means could buy in. We didn't want to do the typical thing where it's like $40 for a book, and everybody's like, "Oh, is this going to be any good? Is this going to be worth it?" We wanted people to be able to jump in and enjoy this, and then hopefully continue with the series, because I've got quite a few story ideas. I already know where the book ends, but like I keep adding things in the middle.
Oh man, I mean, don't we all? It's always because you're writing, and something suddenly comes up, and sometimes you have to slap away those ideas, but other times you just have to like let them come in. I don't know, but for this first book, I want to ask, how many pages is it?
So right now it was initially 24, and then we hit the $10,000 tier, so we added the 8-page prologue. So it's 32 pages right now of story content and beautiful Renzo art. And then there's more tiers coming up that will add pages to it. So I just messaged Murphy today. She's handling the campaign and working on the graphics and things like that. So that should be added shortly, the next tiers, because we're almost ready to cross 13,000, which unlocks the Doomface sticker. And then we've got some other things that and then like more tiers will be revealed. So probably the last of our tiers are coming up this week.
Gotcha.
Unless it just goes crazy. And if it just goes crazy, then I'll be like, I don't know. Do you guys want it to be? You guys want a hardcover? Like, what do you want?
Ruff, by the way, said, "I love your Darkwing comics. I'm glad I have the omnibus."
Oh, I'm so glad. By the way, if anybody wants the omnibus and they don't have the $400 to $700 that the thing goes for now, sometimes to spend on it, just let me know. Send me a message, and I'll make sure that you get a digital copy.
That's quite a lot. How many issues did you do?
So all told, the omnibus is 416 pages. And then we did another 2 volumes that were 88 pages each. So, well over, probably like almost 600 pages of content.
And was that like your favorite, or was that just what you worked on the most?
Oh, that's definitely my favorite thing that I've worked on so far. But before Doomface, it is one of the things that, like, if there were ever a chance to go back and do more, I would do it. I loved doing it. So, but like the restrictions now of doing those sort of things, like I don't know if you guys have checked out the ones that Dynamite's doing, but they're so bland and so like just kind of like lifeless. They feel like they're for very, very little kids, which is weird because they market it to collectors with all the Batman homage covers. It's just a weird disconnect over there. I always say about Dynamite, Nick Barucci is a millionaire that should be a billionaire. I don't know if he's a millionaire, but I use the CM Punk line, from from the pipe bomb, is he should be much more rich than he is. But I think that he surrounds himself with people that just are cashing a check and don't really have a passion for what they're doing anymore. So it's and it kind of shows in a lot of the work. So it's unfortunate, but Silvani and I have talked about doing a free version, continuing our Darkwing stories for free on the internet, just for subscribers or something like that. and just doing it John Byrne style, like he did Elsewhere, where he was like, "This is what I would have done with the X-Men if I."
Yeah, I have that on my ever-growing to-read list. While I never read comics at night, because I just crash. But that sounds awesome. So you would do your own fan fiction then?
Yeah, we would do our own. And it would just continue the story that we set up, because we had several more years worth of stories in the pipeline. Like we were building to something, because we were told we had a longer run. We were told, like, we're committed to this for like 2 years, at Joe Books.
Gee,
So
I wonder why you went independent.
Yeah, because you just get the rug pulled out from you so often. Even at Merck, which is where I met Murphy and where I met Dolan, who does Unholy Nightmare, and who I work with on a number of things, including, we all work over at TCM Press now doing Silent Nights, which is in demand right now if you want to check out that Kickstarter, and the upcoming Depths of Valor, which is going to be fantastic. We all met at Merck, and the rug was pulled out from under us there. We were doing great work and we were trying to build something. And then, again, you have an owner who comes in and they decide that they're creative and they're the genius behind all this stuff and they're why it works, and starts putting their big oafish fingers into it and turning it into something terrible. And then it all falls apart. So, that was really the catalyst for my decision. I knew I wanted to do something that was mine. I knew I wanted to do something independent. Like, I was talking to Renzo about Kneel Before Doomface before Merck fell apart. But, once Merck was over, I was like, you know what, it's time. It's time to do something on my own and forge my own path and tell my own stories and own my own stuff. And within Kneel Before Doomface, just the other day, I came up with an idea, like a spinoff idea, that I told Renzo. I was like, if we do this right, if we nail this, this is like $1 million idea spinning out of Kneel Before Doomface. Like, this is a whole other thing. And he got like super excited about it. So like I said, I want to work with Renzo forever. I want that guy to be so rich from everything that we do. I want him to be smoking cigars and just laughing all the time, just like throwing money, making it rain. That's what I want for Renzo. He's so damn good.
He's great. Renzo's awesome. So yeah, I just want to take a look at, all of this looks fantastic. And I realized I had committed an egregious sin. You had mentioned you got into X-Men, and I never asked you what X-Men comics. When you mentioned the Byrne, did you get into it during the Claremont era, or when did you get into it?
No, I'm not. Well, it was definitely the Claremont era, but it wasn't Byrne. I actually had to go back to. Because it was past that point. Yeah, I got in. I think John Romita Jr. was doing that.
Oh, okay. That was like that was a long, like what, a 40-issue run, I think, that he did.
The first X-Men I remember buying was 207 with Wolverine, slicing through the
cover. Oh, that's an iconic cover.
Yeah, it's like I saw that ad in the back of G.I. Joe, and I was like, "What is this? I want to read this." And so I went and I picked it up, and then I started going backwards and buying all the issues. So now I've got a really good X-Men collection. I think I have every single X-Men book from the Uncanny run up to a certain point.
Nice. I'm almost done with that run. I read Extinction Agenda recently. So I'm almost done with that original Claremont run.
Extinction Agenda gets kind of forgotten, but it's a really good crossover.
It's a good crossover. I think part of why is it's the second X-Men event in a row where it ends with Havoc. You got to wake up, Havoc. It's me, your brother, Scott. Let's blow up the villain. And they blow up the villain, and then they hug and leave. It's this literally the year before that. Inferno is like the exact same ending. Scott, no, the Goblin Queen is seducing you. And then it's like, no, Genosha is seducing you. It's like, so I was like, are you kidding me?
And then what happens in Age of Apocalypse? Scott.
Oh, did it happen again?
Havoc. They're on
so
odds again.
I did a video because I was just in awe at the fact that within a year of publication, or so, Polaris turns evil, leaves. Then Madeline Pryor he falls in love with, the next girlfriend, leaves, turns evil, dies. Then the next girlfriend is in the Marvel Comics Presents. Turns out to be evil, tries to steal his powers. Then again, and this was all in 1989, I think Polaris was 88, 87. But within 1989, Goblin Queen betrays him. Then the next girlfriend in Marvel Comics Presents betrays him, and then that woman in Wolverine Havoc Meltdown betrays him. So and I'm like, dude, within a couple months of publication, that happens back to back to back, and I'm like, come on, man.
But
and then it happens again.
I identify
Again
with
in
Havoc that
Genosha,
response,
another
you can't catch a break, and women keep betraying you.
yeah. No, he is. Yeah, Havoc. It's like, man, I feel like they often don't know what to do. And I feel like when writers don't know what to do with the character, they just torture them until they find something to do. And I think that's what happened with I think that happened with both Summers brothers, to be honest with you. I think
Yeah, they're definitely the whipping boys of the X-Men franchise.
Yeah, they
just
really
continually take it on the chin.
They continually are like, all right, we don't know what to do with Havoc. Let's have another love interest betray him and ruin his life. But it just amazes me. It's like within months, I'm like, are you kidding? Like, it was 3 different writers decided the same idea. I don't know
Polaris
why.
is the love of his life, so she betrays him, and then he falls in with a bad choice. I mean, come on, we've
Horrible choice. Like his brother's wife. It's
his ex-wife. I mean, that happens.
Not even. Well, all right. So this is the mayor. If she dies on camera, then I guess it gets annulled, right? Because Scott thought she was dead. That's another thing too. People take it out of context. Like Scott just left his wife, and it's like, well, I mean,
he thought she was dead. Yeah. There's more to it than that.
It was also like he left because she was like, if your clone girlfriend comes, or if your ex-girlfriend comes back, she's like, you can't see her. And he's like, well, I kind of want to. I mean, you got like, he was given a weird spot, and that's because Chris was put in a weird spot. Because like, hey, you know how like you put all this effort in to have him move on from Jean, and he literally just moved on from Jean. Like, what if we like brought her back? You cool with that? No, too bad.
I mean, did anybody already think it was weird that an almost identical version of the woman that he lost showed up? Like,
that was like,
cut Scott a break.
I love Scott, I love Chris Claremont, but that was like Madeline Pryor was one of the first times I was like, this is a weird writing choice. I was like, this is because it was like, no, she just this new redhead because he had a girlfriend, that's cute blonde chick, breaks up with her, who I actually thought was more interesting, to go with Madeline, who's just like Jean, but not, but yes, but no, but maybe.
Dude's got a type, like
I guess redheads specifically.
And look,
but not even just redheads that look exactly like Jean.
It led us into really great things like
Inferno.
like Inferno, which, by the way, like, look, here's a head sculpt of Nash Tier from Inferno that I'm working on.
Nash Tier,
yeah.
You know what? He is a cool looking character. Who did that? Claremont is my favorite writer, so his stuff really inspired me greatly. But I'm sorry,
I broke his stride. Like once Jim Lee got him kicked off of X-Men so that he could take over for 6 months and then leave.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, I mean, basically,
because I'm about to get there.
Yeah, it was basically like, well, I don't want to draw the stuff that he's telling me to draw. I want to draw the stuff that I want to draw. And then Bob Harris, saying, well, you're the hot thing, so we need to go with you.
Yeah, let's not go with the guy that literally took the X-Men from a nobody canceled book to the highest selling series. Let's not listen to that guy.
Yeah, that guy's only been building this thing for
he only did it for what, 7? That's another thing. He said that I remember the first time I met Chris, I was like, what was your favorite story? He goes, they weren't made. And it made me so sad. He was like, he said that he could have written for another 16, 17 years. Mm-hmm. Do you know about his original plans? Sorry, I don't mean to go off topic, but
this is what we do, man. We talk about all this nerd shit.
Do you know about his original plans? Because I'm obsessed with them. With his original plans with Mr. Sinister and Gambit.
No,
they were the same person. So
really,
Mr. Sinister, and this is so you wouldn't get it because it was like all the things were kind of spread out thin enough where you couldn't see it coming, right? Like Mr. Sinister was dead for like 20 issues when Gambit shows up, right? And then there was in Marvel Comics Presents, they'd have you'd have these Gambit, little stories,
Mr. Sinister was still out there, right? Because he didn't die until Inferno.
Yeah, which was before Gambit. So that was right. 2. Let me check my Inferno. That was 2, or that was X Factor 39, which was like right by 243. So yeah, it was over 20 issues of Mr. Sinister being dead. But so in the Marvel Comics Presents stories, there was this like short story where there's like psychopathic kid named Nathan was screwing with Scott Summers at the orphanage in the flashbacks. The reveal was supposed to be, and then it's revealed that Mr. Sinister like messed with Scott at the orphanage, right? Mm-hmm. The reveal was supposed to be that this child Nathan, there was kind of elements that were later done, but this child Nathan was Mr. Sinister, and Mr. Sinister, the reason he was so over the top with the sharp teeth and the cape and the over the top name and the diamond eyes, the reason he looks like such a cartoonish villain was because he was a child's projection of a villain named Mr. Sinister, because he couldn't look like be a kid giving orders to the Marauders, so he had to come up with Mr. Sinister. So he created Mr. Sinister, and now he wants to like be the cool guy as well. And maybe I'm wrong, someone can fact check me, but he wants to be the cool guy as well. So another persona he creates with his mutant power, whatever the hell it was, like creating people, was Gambit. So Gambit is the suave guy from New Orleans with the trading cards and the over-the-top getup. That was Gambit. So he was this villain persona was Mr. Sinister. His like cool guy hero persona that was going to seduce Rogue, who he had a crush on, was Gambit. And eventually they were going to, I think, both like form personalities and become their own thing. But it was originally this kid, Nathan, had created both of them.
See, I like that. I think that's
because I think
Gambit got too popular, and then editorial.
Yeah, well, it's also Chris was a long-term storyteller, and you just he introduces Gambit, and then within however many issues of introducing Gambit, like 12, he's kicked off the book. Well, by that time, like Chris would like what Mariko was introduced like how many issues before Wolverine? You know, if he introduced the character, you'll get the backstory later, or you won't get it at all. And
yeah, I remember like reading what was it, like 219, and I think it's like 219 where you get that little tease of the Brood being on Earth, and then that doesn't get picked up for
until
for years later.
Because I remember I was like, are they just like chilling out in the desert? Brood, you know, that's one of the things I have to write, but I'm also like, you can forgive little imperfections like that with pacing. You know what I mean? Like, because there are things you could logically go, okay, so what was Magneto doing for 50 issues after, like, between Trial of Magneto and where he's on the island? He's just screwing around? I'm supposed to believe Magneto doesn't come back, but you know, for pacing wise, sometimes you just have to go. Well, and that's why people nowadays can come in and do their miniseries, you know, and just kind of fill in whatever gaps. Like Chris has been doing that. He's been just, you want to know what happened between these issues? I don't know if you've been reading the latest stuff, but he's been doing that.
No, I think it's great though. I love the fact that he's been doing that. He's been knocking it out and telling those little things. I think he definitely, like, they broke his stride, and I think he definitely lost a step, like when he went and did like kind of his continuation of the X-Men. Which I think was called X-Men Forever. It was not as good. Obviously, Sovereign 7 wasn't as good. You know, he kind of seems to have lost his mojo. And I assume that some of that has to do with being kicked off of the book unceremoniously.
See, I think it's that, but I mean, his most recent stuff I'm reading it, and then I'm reading Back in the Day, and I don't think he's lost his touch. I just think, I mean, like, for example, if they were to say, Vaughn, you get to write the X-Men, I'd be like, dude, they're not even the same people anymore. How do I pick up?
No,
they're like terrorists now. They're a cult now.
You go back and they feel familiar, and he kind of like steps seamlessly back into what he was doing. But I think going forward, it didn't feel the same anymore.
Yeah. I haven't read his stuff coming back because I haven't finished his original run, but everyone keeps saying it wasn't the same when he came back. And I feel like it was probably, and maybe I'm just projecting, but I feel like it was probably him fighting with the editors. If I were to imagine that he's like, oh, let's go back. And like, no, Chris, we already did this.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, all the ideas that you had have already been ruined by lesser writers. So.
Yeah, and I don't have anything against Lobdell. Actually, Mark Polton, who I had on, is like a big Lobdell fan. But I mean, I'm sorry. I never thought the Thieves Guild, Assassins Guild thing with Gambit was interesting. And then when I heard about this, I thought that was so much more interesting. And maybe it's because I'm biased toward Claremont. But I don't know. I mean, that whole, because I'm reading the run and I'm in that part where that setup was taking place. And it makes sense.
I liked Lobdell's run, but I always felt like I wanted Claremont back. When he got booted from the book, I didn't understand why that was happening and what was going on, and why they didn't bring him back. Like, once Jim Lee abandoned ship, why didn't you just bring Chris back on?
Was it Jim? Because I wonder, because Jim and Chris worked together after. So I always thought it was Bob Harris that was.
Well, I mean, Bob Harris is the final decision comes with him, but it came down to them going with, you know, what was hot. Remember, they gave all that power to the artists that eventually bailed and went to Image. You know, they were bending over backwards in a lot of ways to please them, but they weren't giving them the money that they felt like they deserved. So, you know, they bailed on them. And then for the longest time, Marvel didn't want to promote artists because of it. And it was like, well, maybe, you know, just treat your artists more fairly, give them a bigger chunk of the pie. Like, you know, I understand, you know, when Jim Lee is seeing his art on lunchboxes, when he's seeing it on t-shirts, he's seeing it on posters,
and you're getting nothing. Yeah,
and you're getting nothing for it. Like, you know, just give him a cut. It's like if you're a wrestling fan, it's like Razor Ramon going to Vince and saying, like, I'd like to better my position with the company. I'd like to better things for my family. Can you just give me, you know, just shave off this much of the change from merch sales? Oh, sorry, can't do that, pal. And that's why Razor Ramon ended up going over and you know, forming the NWO with Kevin Nash over in WCW.
Bancroft's raid is coming in. Hopefully this brings you some more people. If everyone wants to drop the link in again, please do. Bogan raid. Hello, what's up, D. James? So we're getting really nerdy about X-Men. Speaking of that, because I do know that Rob Liefeld was driven off in part because of Simonson. And I feel like, because I'm 3 issues away from finishing New Mutants, you could tell. Like, I finished Louise's towards the end, like when Rob comes on, it's like Cable shows up and instantly he's the main character. And it's like, what about the people we just followed for 86 issues? I mean, no, they can just follow him now. I'm like, oh.
Well, I've always disagreed with Rob because I always liked New Mutants, but even before he came on, I will say he brought an excitement to it, and Cable brought an excitement to it, and he seems to have always had a problem with, like, in Louise's notes, because, you know, they hadn't settled on Cable's, you know, name yet. She just kind of wrote Commander X in the notes so that he had a name that, you know, she could refer to him with. But I don't think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like that really, like, bent him out of shape, and you know, he just, you know, he was a guy who was coming on, and he was popular, and you know, people were responding to, you know, his art, and you know, I've always thought that he was one of those guys that, you know, when you are a young guy and everybody in the industry is blowing smoke up your ass and telling you you're the best thing ever, you know, you're going to start to believe it. So, you know, you go back and you read those early X-Force issues, though, and they're awful. Like, you know, they're terrible. They look good.
Sorry, so I'll have to, because I've been hearing mixed things. I've been told to read it. But honestly, like, all right, so actually Phil brought up a point I was about to just, who created Cable? You ready for this? All right, so because people debate this constantly. So Rob is like, it's all his idea. And I'm not dissing Rob, but I'm also crediting all the other people. Okay, Cable's first appearance, was it New Mutants 87 or was it Uncanny X-Men 201? Because in 201, you have the child who was born, which, another fun fact, what's the kid's name? Nathan, because Mr. Sinister was plotting, I think, was the whole thing. No, I didn't say you're always dissing Rob.
Cable is his own creation.
Is he?
Just tying him back to a character that was introduced, like a baby that was introduced. Like, I don't think we have any evidence that Claremont was like, and then Nathan's going to come back from the future.
No.
And he's going to be an older guy. You know, I don't think I think that that's just one of those things where it's like, Rob creates the visual, you know, he creates the visual of Cable and the idea kind of like of this character. And then we can debate who goes back and ties it to issue 201, whether that's Rob or whether that's Louise or a combination of the two, or, you know, Claremont having some input, whoever it is, you know, that's not the creation of Cable as a visual is Rob, just like the creation of Deadpool as a visual is Rob. Now, I will say, all of the things that people like about Deadpool, I contribute more to Fabian and Joe Kelly, because they establish a lot of things about his personality, about the way that he talks. You know, you go back and you read those early issues that Rob worked on, and Deadpool's not fully formed as far as a personality. He's more of a visual. And that's kind of like how Rob creates things, is he creates a visual. And then, you know, I don't think that, I don't think any evidence at all
that it was planned. Well, that's one of my problems. That's one of my problems I have with Cable, is this guy shows up, he's just Cable. And what do you know about him? Oh, he has history with apparently every character that comes on screen. Apparently he's the most important character of all time. This dude just got here. And then he becomes the main character of New Mutants. And I love the New Mutants. I think they're criminally underrated, right? Now, to be fair, the book was losing its way by that time, I think, because you just lost Magic. Bless up your boy Cypher.
You lost Brett Blevins.
Brett Blevins.
You know, fantastic. Like,
you
still
lost
love his art.
Danny Moonstar. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it was the book was definitely in a transitional period when
Yeah.
Rob came on.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, like, Bird Brain was a dumb visual, but that was a good story. I liked that
Yeah.
story, and it
And
was
then
weird,
they
and it
killed
was
off
kind of, out
Cypher.
there.
My
Yeah.
man.
And they
My
had
boy.
but like think of that cover though, where it's like the Living Dead, where Warlock is
That
manipulating
issue
him,
was
and that
great. Louise
Like,
told
look,
me that was
that
her favorite
issue-
issue.
Yeah, the issue where Warlock has to deal with the death of Doug and really kind of like they have to
Heartbreaking.
explain to him what death is. That is better than anything Rob has written in his career. And I'm not dissing Rob. I think that Rob definitely has his place in the industry, and he's contributed the last of the cool things at Marvel. They've never really been able to duplicate the success of characters that he's introduced who have gone on and become popular. They've tried to artificially manufacture it with your Miss Marvels and things like that, but they've never really been able to do it. So taking nothing away from Rob, but Rob is not a writer.
I think, yeah, I mean, one of the things I liked about New Mutants, I was just breaking down issue 45, is that they would really break down issues like death. And I think Warlock, yeah, that issue because Cypher's death was very well handled. And you just see it just destroy the team. Like, they're just so heartbroken. And it was like, I think one of the main reasons why Magneto went back bad is having to, deal with that. I think that was so well handled. And then, like you said, that Warlock issue where it's just him puppeting around his friend because you cannot fathom the concept of death is one of the most it's like such a disturbing visual that like could be funnier in another context, but it's just like sad the way it's done.
Just like the moment where he's like, I still remember the line where he's like, like conclusion, because he's like, why is he so, why is he so immobile? When Warlock joins with him in the coffin, and he says, he's all stiff from lying in coffin dark box. And then he's like, conclusion, that's why living dead entities walk the way they do. And so he's like zombifying walking.
Yeah.
And that makes it even more horrific for the team when Doug comes in and he's walking like a zombie from a movie, because that's Warlock's interpretation of what should be happening. And it's really tragic, and it's heartbreaking, and it's awful. And like Rain's pain, Wolfsbane, like her, since Doug was like her best friend and kind of like love interest, it's just so heartbreaking. Rain was always crying, but
she really, I like her, but honestly, she did do a lot of crying. Like for me, my favorites were actually Cypher was one of my favorites, which I get a lot of flack for. I'm a big Cypher defender. But I would say my favorites, my tops would be obviously Magic. I would say Mirage and Sunspot are probably my top three.
I've always been a huge Magic fan. I always thought that she was always my main on the team.
Yeah, I mean, Magma never got enough love or attention, to be honest. She always was pushed to the side, and I'm like, she's the most overpowered one, and they always would just push her.
Well, that's kind of why you got to push her to the side. It's just like when you have a character like Xavier who can solve literally every problem. It's a problem with the Flash. I think the Flash is probably a really hard book to write because in theory, he should be able to take out Captain Cold and Heatwave and most of his villains immediately, because he should be able to knock them out before they even know that he's there. So you have to come up with ways for them to I always kind of liked the idea, like I didn't like the character, but when they had the younger, like the son of Captain Boomerang who had super speed, I was like, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I remember that was Identity Crisis, right, when they introduced him. The son of Captain Boomerang. What was it like? What was his name? Mercer? Owen Mercer, I think, was the second one. I know it's that makes sense. I haven't read that much of him, but I would always. It's one of those things where it's just very inconsistent. Like people be like, the Flash is the most OP person ever. I'm like, then why does this villain have a freeze ray? Oh man. But so going through, let's go back through the campaign. So those just joining. So $15 for the main cover, $10 for the digital, $20 for Welcome to San Franangeles.
Yep.
It's a great one. Of course, we got the Captain America. We got
so you got Colonel Silverstreak, the American murder machine, and he's punching out Justin Trudeau. And in the background, you got like the new Axis of Evil. You got Fauci there in the Scarecrow costume from Arkham Knight. You've got George Soros in the Lex Luthor inspired outfit. Wow. You've got Klaus Schwab in an outfit that supervillain actually wore. And then in the front, you've got Bill Gates crying like a little bitch.
I take it you didn't pitch this to any publishers?
I did not. No, I didn't want to. I have zero interest in being told you can't do this, you can do that. Like,
Good for you.
And sharing it, sharing it with anybody. If anybody's going to share in this, it is, and somebody who I haven't talked about enough, Oscar Carreno, our colorist, he is doing such a bang up job. If anybody is going to share in the spoils of this, it's going to go to Renzo, it's going to go to Oscar, it's going to go to Murphy for building the campaign. Those are the people that I want money to going to, not some publisher that's going to come in and muddy the waters.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's great. Oscar, I remember I was recommended him when I was looking for a colorist. Hold on. I accidentally unplugged my headphones.
This is one of my favorite covers here by Nate. This really captures the attitude of Lexi. She's got a supervillain name, by the way. I just haven't revealed it yet because that'll be like in book 2. But yeah, she's Hollywood producer, and she's dealing with a supervillain now. In Hollywood, she's dealt with actual monsters, so she's not particularly as afraid as she should be of Doomface. And there's some moments in the comic, like I've got some scenes from future books where she kind of realizes who she's dealing with. In the beginning, it's kind of funny, and it's kind of a funny little back and forth. But as he gets more involved in his plans and she gets sassy, he reminds her who he is.
Mm-hmm. That's good stuff. I don't know. You could see so much personality in these, and I like that a lot. By the way, yes, I know it's a cold gun. I know it's the same. Well, to be fair, I do the same thing when people go, Cyclops has laser eyes. I go, no, they're optic blasts. It's a concussive force. And people are like, it's the same thing. I'm like, it's not.
It's not remotely.
Not remotely.
It's like getting punched. It's not like getting burned.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the one issue where he plays pool with his he just goes like he's playing pool with his girlfriend, and no one's looking, goes, and then just gets everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun one. That was one of the reasons I like Cyclops. You take one power that isn't technically that crazy, and you put crazy limitations on it, and it could still just do a million different things with it. I love it.
I always like that X-Men annual where they revealed that if Havoc ever let himself cut loose, he would turn into a star. Like, that's how much energy he can generate.
Was that after Claremont?
No, that was Claremont.
Wait, which issue was that?
That was where they fought a villain called Horde, and they were after the Macron crystal. Is it the maybe it's not called the Macron crystal. It's been a while since I read it, but it's Perch recently did a video on it, which I haven't watched, but I saw him talking about how this is one of the best X-Men stories ever that Claremont did. It's fantastic. I want to say it's X-Men Annual 13, but don't quote me on that.
All right, I haven't. Is that my next one? Is that Atlantis Attacks?
No. So if it's Atlantis Attacks, then I'm wrong.
Oh man, I have one annual left to read. One, so could be the last one, but God, I'm trying to remember. I should know.
Let me see if I can find it. Like I said, Perch just did a video on it, and it was pretty great. Oh, here it is. Yeah, I found it. It is Annual 11. I was off by 2. It's got some great Alan Davis art. God, did anybody draw a better Mohawked Storm than Alan Davis? I don't think they did. Did I lose the stream? Is it just me? Am I the only one here? Did we lose Vaughn? Can you guys hear me? It still shows that we're live. Okay, cool. You guys can still hear me. Hi, I've taken over Vaughn's channel. This is the Aaron Sparrow show now. Man, I do not like being full screen. What the hell? But so Vaughn is frozen. That's X-Men Annual 11. That is an absolutely fantastic issue. If you guys have not checked that out, definitely read that one. Absolutely love it. It like I said, it's got Alan Davis art. Alan Davis just drew the.
Sorry about that. My computer. Hold on. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, we can't see
My
you.
computer just crashed, like just abruptly turned off.
the
What
Maroney
the
in
hell?
chat says that the freeze gun.
Are you
got
guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
All right, I just came back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Dude,
hear
my
you.
computer just abruptly crashed. Out of no, like, all right, so I was, my work here is done.
Mo Big's got you.
Dude, all right, so I was looking at the annuals and then suddenly the whole page got highlighted. I'm like, I didn't highlight the page. And then my computer just completely shit itself.
Yeah, I thought you were gone. I was like, did I get kicked? And then because like, you weren't.
I
Saying
don't
anything.
know
I was
what the
talking
hell
about
happened.
The book.
Someone hacked into the mainframe, I guess. That was very bizarre. Captain Cole wants to. I said it was a cold gun. I love Captain Cole. I think he's a great character. Don't get me wrong.
They kind of parody that whole idea in Dr. Horrible's sing along blog, where he's like, it's not a freeze ray or an ice beam. That's all Johnny Snow, which is like one of this guy that keeps challenging him.
There you
So
go.
with
We got it.
Ray, I will
Do you
stop
have a
the
freeze
world.
villain yet?
Yeah, so the Social Justice League has a character on it named Snowflake, and that character was in the works before they tried to do that for New Warriors. So
That's incredible.
yeah, the Social Justice League is led by the White Knight, and that's further down the page. You can see that picture. And by the way, a lot of the things that come out of the douchebag heroes' mouths are direct quotes from mainstream comic book professionals. So you guys have some fun. You guys will have some fun going through and seeing who. There they are. The Social Justice League is here to check to check the hero's privilege.
Incredible. Wow. This looks like a really fun book. Everyone should absolutely back it. What cover were we on before I was so brutally interrupted?
We were looking at like different ones, but I think the last one we had talked about was Castellani's cover, maybe.
Man, this one. Okay. Yeah, so it's all $20, and then the $25 are these are a lot of covers. It's good stuff. The last ones are the Roquefort. Is
and
this
then
one?
And there's actually an additional book that at certain tiers you can get, which is Memoirs of the Void, which will be a separate book that'll be like a bunch of behind the scenes things. So you'll get to see character designs, you'll get to see sneak previews of stuff that's coming up that's not in this book. There'll be a lot of like really fun stuff in there. So we just we with this campaign, like I really wanted, I was like, what can we give people? How can we make this special? How can we give them as much as possible, for believing in us and for backing us? I want it to be fun. We haven't hit the tier yet, but I would love to do like founders coins and things like that, but those are expensive, so those are a high tier item. But we're doing stickers. I've got some trading cards in the works. Really trying to make the campaign, have a lot of extra goodies for people. And obviously the more people that jump in, the higher it goes, the more you get, even at the base, of the base $15, you'll get a bunch of extras.
Oh, yeah.
That Roquefort cover, man.
It's really, I mean, I can see why you're advertising it everywhere. These all look great though. They all look great. And they all convey something different, which is nice. I don't know. I like it.
I mean, I just look forward to being at a con and having, they obviously won't be as cheap at a con, but anything that we overprint and just having them on the table and having like that display of a bunch of covers. I kind of want to take, I want to get every single cover and put them in a frame and just have like a giant frame with it. A giant frame with every cover in it, like behind me, when I work, or on the wall in front of me here.
Oh yeah. These all look fantastic, man. And this book looks great. How much of it is done?
So the 8-page prologue is done, because Renzo started working in order, and then several pages of the interior are done. Some of the pages, like the page with Lexi arguing with Doomface, where she's in costume for the first time, that's actually not in chapter 1. That's in chapter 2, which we haven't unlocked yet. So we kind of jumped around, and I wanted to do different pages that showed off the different things that in different moments in the book and kind of conveyed the humor. And this is a nice moment between Lexi and Doomface, where she's been told that she said, like, I'm not gonna have to wear any like leather number working for you, am I? Some uncomfortable leather number. And Doomface is like, certainly not. I find that morale is, better with a more casual dress code. And she's like, oh, good. And then he's like, metal bustiers are reserved for formal occasions. So here, is her coming out and going, you said no metal bustier bullshit. And he's like, no, I said that metal bustiers were reserved for formal occasions. And the supervillain gala is most formal. So book 2 will actually be the supervillain gala, which we parody the just absolute stupidity that was the Hellfire Gala in X-Men, where it's, all the supervillains get together with a bunch of pomp and circumstance. And it's ruled over by his brother Malignus, who is one of the characters that betrayed him and caused him to be banished in the first place. So that will be their first major confrontation with him coming back, will be at the supervillain gala.
That looks great, man. And then, so you mentioned unlocking chapter 2. Oh my God, I keep forgetting I'm not on screen.
You're just a logo, buddy.
Yeah, man. You know what? I might as well make it this one then. Oh, there we go. Well, at least I got
it's good.
this.
I like you not being on screen, because then I don't have to look at your resplendent hair and feel envy. There's people in the chat were talking about that. Don't let Aaron see Vaughn.
Yeah, I try to ignore those comments.
No, that's great though. I love the fact that that you're loved by the chat when they roast you.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I love it. All these people. This has been a big audience. Look at you, Mr. Popularity.
Am I? Did I bring in?
You brought in a pretty big crowd today. Yeah, a big one.
I've got a good following on Twitter, so usually if I put things out on Twitter, I've got regulars that'll come over and watch, and I appreciate every single one of you. And you know what? That's one of the reasons that I wanted to do my own book, is because I wanted to do something for the customers, for the people that actually appreciate what you do. One thing that is really a theme through this book with the superheroes that Notorious KID, who, by the way, sometimes I will call Spam because that's actually his first name. So Spam and Iggy, the heroes that they're encountering are douchebags that don't appreciate the populace, that don't appreciate the people that make them, that build them up to be heroes. And it is a little bit of a meta commentary on the mainstream industry and how, you got pros like Ron Mars or Mark Waid who talk down to you and treat you like crap. So part of the reason that I wanted to do this book was I wanted 2 characters that actually care about the people. And in a way, that's me telling you that as a customer, I care about you. I care about the things that you think. I care about delivering quality entertainment to you and making something that you enjoy and that, you can have fun with, as opposed to, lecturing you and telling you how you should think and then getting mad when you don't acquiesce to what I think that, you should be doing. Oh, Millie Santos says, I have the Kneel Before Doomface print framed in my room. Oh, cool. Send me a picture or put that on social media. Did you pick that up at New York Comic Con, Millie? Or is that something that, because I know that we finally got everything sent out that was ordered off the website, but I don't know that anybody's got that yet. Or maybe a few people have, but let's
see. Which one was this? Sorry, let me scroll through the campaign.
Oh yeah. So no, Millie is saying that she has the Kneel Before Doomface print, which was something that we did for New York Comic Con.
I forgot to get one of those.
If you remember, Vaughn, when you came by, I was sitting there at the table, and I'll send you some, Vaughn. Don't worry about it. There's still some up on the there's still some up on the website. Just
thank you. Which website can I?
KneelBeforeDoomface.com.
Okay, I should have put that in. See, I should. The problem is, I just kind of like Doom face.
You're shooting from the hip. You're just
I'm like, oh, I got the campaign. I'm ready to go.
Flying by the seat of our pants. That's how we do things on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. I just typed in it. I'll have to find it. I have the print. I mean, this book looks incredible. So how long are you planning on doing it? Do you have like a multiple issue arc planned? I assume you do.
Right now, I have enough material to do 6 books that were like, if they were like 100 pages long. So I don't know what that breaks into in issues. I haven't done the math on it yet. But just roughly, that's what I've got. I've got a bunch of different arcs, a bunch of different things for the characters to go through. The nice thing is the comic industry is so ridiculous that there's so many things to parody that I'm constantly coming up with new things that we can do with Doomface, with Lexi, with Spam and Iggy. I really want to parody Absolute Batman, even though I feel like Absolute Batman is already a parody of Batman. But I just want to lean further into how ridiculous it is. One of the things that we talked about on Comics Aficionados was, he comes off as the world's dumbest detective. And we were joking around about, Batman. Everybody knows the Dark Knight. Where are they? Wham, where are they? And we were joking that it would be funny if he comes into the room and they're like, look, Batman, the villain left fingerprints. And then he just grabs the cop and starts beating him. What are they? And they have to explain to him what fingerprints are because he's just that dumb. That's how absolute Batman feels to me. It just feels like
I've heard mixed things.
Batman.
Some people tell me it's amazing and some people tell me it's dumb. I think that the idea and the design look dumb. I think Batman with an axe is dumb. I've been told the premise, and it's the same thing I say every time we get another of these alternate universe Batmans. Why? What's wrong with Batman? Why?
If you thought that the Death Knight's metal stuff was kind of like over the top and dumb and didn't make a lot of sense, this is that squared. But
Man.
I'm having a great deal of fun with it because it's just so ridiculously over the top that I'm laughing through the whole thing. I know that's not the reaction that I'm supposed to have, but it is, for me, it's like the Madam Web of Batman, where I'm just enjoying it on a wow, they did this, kind of level.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great that they're doing well, but I just it doesn't look appealing. Everyone keeps saying that this is like the next big thing, and I'm like, why do we're just doing another different Batman? And people are like, this is the innovation. I don't care. I got very, you know what I mean? Like I like this stuff like this. This is why I kind of went more indie. Is I don't know. It's like, do we really? An absolute Batman just didn't look appealing. Now I've had some people, it's always on either end of the spectrum. People are either like, this is the dumbest crap, or they're like, Vaughn, it's amazing. I never hear like, actually I guess I've heard it's okay, which I generally take as no thanks. If someone tells me you should get this book, it's okay, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm not good. I'm good.
What if I told you that it's both those things? Absolute Batman is both amazing and dumb. It's amazingly dumb.
So is it like worth an ironic read?
Yeah, it's definitely worth an ironic read. That's how I'm reading it. And no offense to people who are reading it and think it's awesome. That's that's cool. I'm glad that you enjoy it on that level. Just, art is subjective, so everybody has their own take and everybody has their own feeling, and some things work for some people and they don't work for others, or they work on an entirely different level. So that's kind of the way that I've approached it. It's funny to me as just big dumb Batman. There's moments like that are just ridiculous where like he jumps down into a thing, and then Alfred's there, and Alfred's like, we need to get out of here, I've got a car out back, and Batman's like, this is a car, and then it turns out that they're like in a big dump truck Batmobile, and it's like, how did Alfred not know he was in a vehicle? But like none of that's explained. It's just like, it's very much if you watch Ryan George pitch meetings on YouTube, which I if you're a storyteller, I definitely recommend, because he points out all the little flaws in movies that don't make any sense, and it'll help you become a better writer, because you'll start.
Oh, that kind of stuff always helped me.
But like it's just to me, that moment, it just seems like it's like, what? How did he not know he was in a room? What are you doing? And it's like, don't think about that. As long as you don't think about it, it's fine.
Yeah, don't ask questions. Just consume product and get excited for next product.
Yeah, and that's very much it's like, this is a room. And I know that in Scott Snyder's head, that was really cool. Like, he's like, or this is a car. He's like, that's going to be such a great moment. But the problem is when you think of a moment, but you don't think of the logistics of the moment, or how to get there. And that's a problem with writing today is, and especially with movie writing, is people think of the set pieces, and wouldn't it be cool if but they don't think of the story logic to get there. So, often, it falls apart at that stage.
What if they fought on the moon? I don't know how we get there. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, like, for example, like if I was like, man, the supervillain gala is going to be really cool and really funny and really have a, really cool fight. I want to do that. But if I didn't think about how we get there, or, how the characters progress to that point, then, it's just a big spectacle and it falls apart.
I wrote an 8-issue story arc, and I initially had it in one location. That made sense. And then when I kind of rewrote the story, I was like, makes more sense if they're in a different location. I kind of was like, well, what's a cool location to fight in that also makes sense? And that's what I came up with. But I wasn't like, all right, it's going to be in a volcano. Well, I guess I could have logically said, come to think of it, missed opportunity.
You could put it in a volcano. Why not?
Maybe.
Villains love their volcano lairs, don't they?
You know what? I'll save it for a later story, the volcano.
That's always the nice thing is there's so many things that, so like there's an idea in Neil Before Doomface. One of our villain groups is a villain group that I actually created for Darkwing Duck, not for the Darkwing Duck that James and I were doing, but there was a point when the DuckTales 2017 comic was out, and Frank Angonis, the showrunner, was lobbying for us to do an IDW Darkwing series that was based on the in-universe Darkwing. Like we would just be doing the TV show that existed in the DuckTales universe. And so we couldn't use Fowl because Fowl exists in the real universe. So we had to create a Fowl kind of analog. And obviously that book never went anywhere because IDW never liked us. IDW was always a very kind of like, the editors were always very much involved in like nepotism, which is why you get creators on books that sometimes aren't the best because it's just them giving work to their friends instead of who would be really good for the job. So we never got to do it, but I took that idea and it works within Kneel Before Doomface. So you'll see that start to crop up, especially during the Supervillain Gala, where we will introduce a ton of villains as we do kind of the roll call of who's there that'll work into future books.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like basically my Hydra / Cobra command.
Nice.
That's what it'll be.
So it sounds like you pull from a bit of everything, from real life, from fiction, from the news, from like He-Man, a bit of everything. So I guess I want to ask, what are your favorite comics of all time?
Obviously, huge X-Men fan. Like I said, as far as humor goes, Sam and Max and Steve Purcell are one of the big influences on me. I love the Darkwing Duck cartoon. I'm just involved in all of this like nerdy stuff. G.I. Joe is the book that and Larry Hama is the book that got me into comics. As a comic addict. I like the Archie stuff. I'm like all over the place. And so like, I'm just kind of like pulling from everything that I love and putting it on the page in this, kind of like mishmash version. Now, granted, the Venture Brothers beat me to it by taking all that Johnny Quest stuff. So there's not a lot of Johnny Quest in this, accordingly, but it's like, you'll see like my ridiculous version of the Fantastic Four. You'll see, Hydra and Cobra, you'll see, my version of G.I. Joe, all contained within this kind of like parody universe. But when I say that it's a parody and I say that it's a comedy, I don't want you guys to think that it's just a big joke. The characters matter, their journey matters, their relationships matter. If somebody is killed, the only way that they're resurrected is as a zombie. There's no coming back from death in this book.
Good.
There's no multiverse, where you're going to get 18 versions of Doomface. Like could I write some comedic stuff with that? Yeah, but it's already been done to death. So, why would I want to go there? I'm going to try to do things that are interesting and original and new takes on things that you've seen before, but do it in a really like fun and engaging way. I want this to matter. Every character design, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm also a big toy guy. So every character design is meant to be toyetic. One of the things that we did early in, as we were doing the character designs is I kept drilling into the artists' heads. I want you to design a character that if you just walked by it on the shelf and you had no knowledge of who this was, you'd be like, that's cool. And you'd want to pick it up.
Yeah.
So, and I think that there's a lot of properties that do a really good job with that. Like obviously Fortnite is one of them. I bought a bunch of Fortnite figures. I have no idea who those characters are. I don't even know if they have characters. I think it's just a run and gun shooter, right? So
yeah, well they do, I guess, that you play as. I don't really, I kind of actually, I never was super into Fortnite, but I know the figures and stuff, I guess.
Yeah, and now Batman and Snake Eyes are, hey, it's that guy from Fortnite for a whole generation of kids.
Oh my god!
But that's what I wanted, is I wanted it to look cool as toys. If you were like, yeah, Todd McFarlane did a figure of these, or there's a Marvel Legend of Doomface, you would want to grab it off of the shelf. And let me just give a shout out to some of the people that helped the initial design for Doomface. I sent a bunch of reference of kind of what I wanted to Tim Lim, and he put that together, and then Renzo took it and refined it and made it his own. He became like larger through the chest, and if you I've shown off Tim Lim's original design a couple times, and his design Doomface was more slender, and Renzo made him more robust and added some details to the armor, like gave it a nose, and because his armor is alive, so the shoulder pads, the knee pads, the chest plate, they all react to different things that are going on with him. So sometimes, if he's raging, they're right there with him. Other times, if he's being ridiculous, like the shoulder armor's rolling its eyes. Renzo just did a piece where he did something with the shoulder armor that I absolutely love. I have not been able to show it off yet because it hasn't been inked yet, and it'll need to be colored. you know, a little something special for all of our backers and for everybody, you know, that I want to do. Another little extra. But yeah, that's what I want. I want you to look at Lexi and I want you to say, man, I want a toy of her. I want you to look at Spam and Iggy and be like, man, those would be great toys, or they'd be great statues, or they'd be great on a t-shirt. Everything in this. And, you know, I didn't want to go for just like straight parodies of things. Now there's a character, if you scroll down, there's a character named the Lamprey, who is like our big loser supervillain. He's designed to be comedic, and my friend Marie actually designed him based on some notes that further down, it's in the preview pages. He's designed on like notes that I gave her, and then she did a take on it, and then Renzo did his take. So he's absolutely fantastically ridiculous. So yeah, here's our prologue pages. This is Doomface in the 80s. This is where you're going to see him get banished, and you see the fight. There's a bunch of superheroes in the background of that splash page that I can't wait to reintroduce. There are versions of certain mainstream heroes, but go further down. And so right here, up one. So right there is the Lamprey. He is the evil overlord of power suction, which, if you know anything about He-Man, that is the title for Leech of the Evil Horde. So this guy is, he basically has a suction-powered costume. And what he doesn't realize is that having a suction-powered costume with your face exposed is probably not a great idea. So he's our loser villain. He's a real sad sack. If you think about who would voice him, like I always imagine John Lovitz's voice in my head for him.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
John Levitz. Let's see if I. Oh, hang on. You were the second guest in a row.
Mm-hmm.
This is crazy. And this is another. Oh my god, I keep forgetting that you can't see me emote or anything. You were the second guest in a row to mention John Levitz. Arvid Nelson, literally just yesterday, was talking about when he was in an elevator with John Levitz.
Oh yeah, no, he's a funny guy, but he's like that perfect. He was the voice of the critic, and obviously he was on Saturday Night Live for a lot of years,
Mm-hmm.
and then a ton of movies. One of his most famous bits is from The Wedding Singer,
Mm-hmm.
where he's singing Ladies' Night, and then he's got that great moment where he's like, he's losing his mind, and I'm reaping all the benefits. And then the curtain just like slowly closes like a villain, and I was like, that's who I want to model this after. I want this to be a John Lovitz character. So yeah, that's the Lamprey, and he's a lot of fun. He works at the DMV in his day job.
I really mean it when I say, like, because one of the things I like is, and this is one thing I like to young creators, I want to say this: if you can't just get excited and talk about your project like this, where just every little thing is like, this was this, this is the best way I think to sell your project. Is you want people to be passionate about it. In an age where everything is like very corporate, people turn to the indies because they want that excitement again.
How many mainstream pros do you have that you never see talk about the projects that they're on? Because they're not interested in it. They're interested in their activism, or they're interested in like whatever their particular, bugaboo is that they're going to go on, on their social media about all the time. But they're never talking about projects that they have out. They're never pushing, books that they worked on. It never seems like they're excited about that stuff. I am super excited about this. I am like so excited for this first issue to come out. I'm already like 3 books ahead in my mind. So in a way, like I'm already like, oh man, I want to get this into everybody's hands so we can go on to book 2 and we can get to this other stuff that I'm writing right now that I'm like super excited about right now. It's comics are an interesting thing because you're always living in the past, present, and future at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with what you're presently working on. You've got your excitement for your future plans, and then you've got like, well, we need to put together the trade or whatever for what we already produced.
Or like the artist, or if you're a writer, especially like. So I'm like, I'm working on. I've written the first 8 issues. So mentally, and right now I'm back. I'm at 8. I'm done with 8, looking to the future. But I'm also, it's like the Dr. Manhattan thing, where it's like, it's this time I am here. It's this time I'm here. It's like, all right. But I'm also like, even today, I'm like, oh, there's a character design issue 3 I was giving feedback on in the morning. Oh, I want to message this person about 3. Hey, 2, I got to set up that campaign. 1, I got to set up my website to have 1, but I want ads for 2. And, you're always existing in all spaces at once, but you got to, have that energy going. And that's why I think most of us would ideally love to have whole teams backing us. Right.
Yeah. I could not ask for better partners on this book than Renzo and Oscar. they're just doing such a good job, and Murphy is doing such a good job with the campaign, and everybody who has come in on this. And by the way, speaking of, like, I think the Dr. Manhattan thing is the best way to put it. Dolan, who I work with on Unholy Nightmare and a variety of other books, for TCM Press, and worked with at Merck. He's, Unholy Nightmare just filled its first issue. I think it's going to go back to a new Kickstarter for a new edition as they're finishing up number 2. He's already written 12 issues of that book. Like, there's 12 scripts that exist, and he's probably on to like 13 and 14 by now. And but that's passion. That's people that actually care about what they're doing. There's a difference between a job and a calling. And I think that the creators that are out there doing their own books and putting out their own stuff, that's a calling. The people that are just, like an editor calls them up and goes, hey, do you want to write this idea for Gold Goblin? And they go, yeah, I'll write that. That's a job.
Yeah.
I think the difference shows in the work.
Mm-hmm. Again, it's like authentically you. Like, this is something that could only come from you. So getting back
conversely, let me just jump in real quick with this.
Go ahead.
But that's not to say that, like, anything that I've ever been hired for, even if I don't get it, like, in the outset, I will find the passion for it. I'll find what the fans love about it, and I will do my best job on it to give them what they want. So, recently, another campaign that's running right now is Black and White Volume 3, Sins of the Father by Art Thibert.
Art Thibert. I've heard of this one.
Yeah, and so I co-wrote that with him. So that's running at the same time, which is
I didn't know that you worked on that with Art.
That's kind of funny. And I had like a mental breakdown while writing that book, and it wasn't because of that book. It was like because of things that were going on personally, and so, like, and that book kind of became like this. It was me pushing, like Sisyphus pushing the rock uphill to get it done. But that's not to say that I didn't do my best job on it. That's not to say that I didn't, get excited about it at various points and like get really excited about what I was writing. Like I said, I kind of lost it like towards the end because it was 64 pages and it was going slower than I would have liked. And so many things that were happening in my personal life were like interrupting it. And I kind of like freaked out at Art at one point, who I still need to, I've apologized, but I still need to like formally have a meeting with him and apologize for, kind of losing my mind. But I'm really proud of what we did. And I'm really proud of the book, and I think it reads really well. And of course, the art that's coming in from his artist and with him doing the inks is absolutely phenomenal. So you can find the passion for things that you're working on that you don't own, and I think that's really like what you should be doing if you want to be professional in this space. You've got to find that passion for each thing that you're working on. It shouldn't just be a job. This is a creative endeavor. You should love it. You should care about it.
Yeah, no, I'm in total agreement. There are some days where it really does feel like work, but you have to have that passion behind the work that I'm getting through this to get to what I want to. I'm getting through. Look, setting up campaign pages isn't the most fun thing in the world, but it's a means to posting, a million times, but you have to find that excitement behind everything. I'm posting it because I'm letting people know so I can get this in people's hands, so I can create the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's everything. But yeah, it looks like you've got a lot more people that are some eyes on it. And again, we got 13 days left. Let's get it over 13K if we can, guys. About this,
if we can do that tonight, that would be spectacular, because that'll unlock the Doomface sticker for everybody. So far,
and it'll make me look good.
That's right. It'll make your show look
most
good.
Importantly,
that's always the thing, right? This is why the mainstream comics industry is failing. And this is why everybody else is, I know that there's a lot of campaigns out there that haven't been fulfilled. There's a lot of people that have taken your money and not delivered for years upon years. We're not going to be one of those campaigns. Obviously, I've produced a lot of books in my time professionally. I've overseen a lot of books. So I think that people have a certain amount of trust that we're going to deliver. And come hell or high water, we're going to deliver. If everything fell out of the bottom of this and I had to like sell off my personal belongings to fulfill this campaign, I will do it. That's how committed I am to this. I want this book in everybody's hands. I want to move on to the next one. I want to build trust with you guys and tell you a story that you're going to love. So. Yeah. So like I said, there's this. So Violent, I asked this earlier, but again, is the comic complete is what Violent Comics is asking? No, that's the model that we want to get to. So I've already spent a lot of my personal money on this I'm not getting reimbursed for. because I believe in it so
yeah.
much. So like every page that you're seeing, like there's nothing that hasn't come out of my pocket. Even like the stuff that I've sold on the website, like the prints, the stuff that we did for New York Comic Con, that basically just kind of covered my flight to New York Comic Con and my trip there to meet you guys. Oscar, there he is. That's our colorist. Look at what an amazing job he's doing. He's just absolutely killing it. Oscar, we've been singing your praises. If you're just coming into the chat here now.
How much for one of your kidneys? Ask Ellie. I don't know why. I normally don't advocate. I want to say I disavow.
My kidneys are in pretty good shape, so I feel like I could get like a slight premium on them if I have to.
Yeah. No, if that's what it takes to fund the book, right? I mean, we talked about passion. So Aaron will be adding that to a tier. By the way,
literally putting your blood into the book is selling organs to make it happen.
Whatever it takes.
So the model that I want to get to is the, kind of the Rippaverse model, the Iconic Comics model, where we're producing the book and it's done at the time that or at least almost done by the time that we put it up, so that a month or two later, after the campaign is fulfilled, we've gone to the printer and we start shipping it out. That's what I'd like to get to. So, but that requires this campaign being successful and being successful enough to kind of cover another book. So we're not there yet, but we'll keep plugging away. We'll keep doing it. We'll, obviously, as we get ready to print, I'll do like a new cover with like a second chance offer for anybody who missed it. Because, you're always going to run into people who didn't hear about it until after the campaign closed, until after it was locked, until after you've gone, you're ready to go to print. So, we want to set ourselves up for every possible avenue of success so that we can deliver you. I'd love to do 4 of these a year and just have them ship out as soon as we're done. 3 is probably more realistic if we were really successful. But if you could do a quarterly book and get you guys like 64 pages, every couple months, telling a new chapter of the story, that'd be fantastic. And every one of them is designed in 24-page increments. So at some point, once we've got enough of a back catalog, I would love to break them up and offer them individually, in 24-page installments in comic book stores, because I would love to give something back to the comic book retailers. And we're also going to have a comic book retailer tier. We haven't launched it yet, but for guys that own shops, we want them to be able to buy bundles to sell in their store.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we'd all love to get it in stores. I'm gonna have to do that. That's another thing. I'm actually glad that I have to take a month, because initially I wanted to go right into issue 2, and I'm actually glad I have to take a month in December at least, to kind of between campaigns, because it's forcing me. I have to go to shops. I have to do this. And so that is good.
So Violet Comics in the chat is asking, who is the floating baby with a beard? That is Soy Boy, a member of the Social Justice League. He's based on Joy Boy from TechNet, from Excalibur, since we were talking about old X-Men books. That's kind of like what his visual is based on. But the reason that he has a beard, the reason that he looks the way he does, is because he is based on internet crybaby Will Wheaton.
Which one is he? Hold on.
This one there after the So Vaughn, this has been a lot of fun. I've actually got to wrap it up.
Yeah, I was about to wrap it up too. I just didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, no, see, because I'll talk forever. So,
listen, you're preaching the choir, man. I'm the same way. So, everyone, where's the best way everyone could follow you, Aaron?
So I'm on Twitter at Aaron_Sparrow. That's probably where I'm the most active on social media. You can hit me up there.
Yeah.
You can follow me on Instagram. It's just Aaron Sparrow. You'll see a lot of like Doomface stuff posted there at the moment. But you'll also see custom toys that I make and things that I paint and other things. Other little insights into my my very pedestrian life. You'll see stuff like me hanging out with Sergeant Slaughter. I can't believe the life that I have. It's such a weird. The convention circuit, and I'm sure Vaughn, it's such a weird thing, who you end up interacting with and who you end up friends with over the years. But yeah, it's really a kind of a cool journey. So yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but if you message me there, I probably won't see it for weeks or months, because I never check Facebook. It's mostly just where my Instagram dumps to. And I think I found out today that somehow I'm on Threads, but again, that's just I don't go on there. And I never wanted to be on Threads, but apparently Instagram just set me up so that like my stuff is dumping there.
Am I
and
on
it followed
Threads
it followed everybody I follow on Instagram. So I mean,
I don't like that.
You can't interact with me there, but you can see what I'm doing.
And so am I on Threads? Then I guess I am. Well, then what's the point of? All right, whatever. Anyway,
Right.
Anyway, whatever. Make it happen. All right. Hero Darky Dark. I'll have you on sometime soon. But all right, so that's where to check out Aaron. I'm going to play the trailer for my book as we head out. Aaron, if you need to go, no worries. But thank you so much for coming on, and let's talk again soon. It was great seeing you at New York Comic Con. I'm sure we'll see each other at a con soon.
Yeah, I'm happy to come on anytime, and
All right.
we should talk about having you on Aficionados sometime.
I would absolutely love that, especially I'll have a book that's out. So
all right, I will. I'll let Wes know that you're interested.
All right,
on.
absolutely.
Thank you to the chat, Oscar. Thanks for showing up. Love you, man. Guys, go follow Oscar. He's a fantastic colorist and a fantastic guy. Thank you, everybody, so much.
All right, see you guys. Peace out. When the whole world was dragged into World War III, brave men like my father fought on the front lines. And they weren't alone. That was 20 years ago. Now it's up to us to carry on their legacy. And every so often, the earth from which we come gives way for something new. Something greater to be born, and with them, even greater threats to face. Bring it on! Phenomenova. For you, Dad. For you.